Thinlay, welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly news edition on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's have a look at today's headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama congratulates Edgars Rinkevics, new president of Latvia. Nalanda Tradition is not ritual and prayer, but being able to transform the mind, says His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness the Dalai Lama sat over Odisha train collision, makes donation towards relief and rescue effort. Sikyong calls for a strategic and collective effort of repressed people under CCP. Sikyong Penpa Tsering to speak at National Press Club of Australia despite China's objection. Tibetan leaders meet world top diplomats in New Delhi. Tibetan representatives attend Tiananmen Square Massacre Memorial. Czech Senate Committee adopts resolution condemning China's repressive and assimilatory policies. Representative Genkhang attends His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 88th birthday celebration. Representative Chukki delivers His Holiness the Dalai Lama's message for inauguration of Peace Stupa in Austria. Office of Tibet Brazil holds 40-day awareness campaign of Tibetan medicine and astrology. His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote to Edgars Rinkevics to congratulate him on being elected as the President of Latvia. In the letter, His Holiness recalled his visits to Latvia and commended the people of Latvia and their neighboring countries for showing the world the value of non-violence, freedom and democracy. His Holiness wished the President every success in fulfilling the wishes and aspirations of the people of Latvia. His Holiness the Dalai Lama met with almost 500 students of Nalanda Diploma course offered by Tibet House, New Delhi. His Holiness said to the audience that the essence of the Nalanda tradition is not ritual and prayer, but being able to transform the mind. His Holiness said it is because the Nalanda tradition is based on reason and logic that we have been able to contribute something to the welfare of the world in the context of secular ethics. Former Foreign Secretary of India, Dr. Nirupama Rao, who is also the Vice Chairman of the governing body of Tibet House, Delhi, was also present along with the Director of Tibet House, New Delhi, Geshe Doji Damdul, and Chief Coordinator of the Nalanda courses, Dipesh Thakur. Currently, there are more than 4,000 students from 98 countries enrolled in the courses run by the Tibet House, New Delhi. His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote to the Chief Minister of Odisha, Navin Patnaik, and expressed sadness over casualties and loss of many lives as a result of tragic train collision that took place in Balasore on Friday last week. His Holiness offered his condolences and prayers for all those who have been affected by this tragedy and made donation from Dalai Lama Trust towards medical treatment and relief and rescue efforts. On Sunday last week, on the full moon day, the principal day of Sagadawa, the fourth month of the Tibetan lunar calendar, His Holiness the Dalai Lama presided over a teaching at main temple to remember the birth and enlightenment of Buddha Shakyamuni.
Aim for the benefit of all sentient beings who surpass even the wish-fulfilling gem. May I hold them dear at all times. And so, thinking along, and then also whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as the lowest amongst all, and from the very depths of my heart, respectfully hold others as superior. And so you will be able to show humility. And so I also do not consider myself as somebody, special, and that I always try to be humble. And when you look at yourself as lower than others and have humility, you will not have arrogance or anger.
On Thursday this week, during the inaugural session of the Conference on China and the Changing Global Order, Prospects and Challenges, Sikyong Penpa Tsering called for a collective and strategized effort of the repressed people under the Communist Party of China in reaching out to the international community and countering growing aggression of the Communist Party of China. Sikyong presided over the inaugural session along with the representatives of Uyghur, Taiwan, Hong Kong and Mongolia who made their presentations during the inaugural ceremony. The conference titled China and the Changing Global Order, Prospects and Challenges is being organized by the Tibet Policy Institute for 3 days. Representative Kama Singye, Office of Tibet, Canberra, assured that Sikyong's scheduled talk at the National Press Club of Australia will proceed as planned despite China's objections. The Chinese embassy caused a stir in the Australian press after demanding the National Press Club of Australia to revoke its invitation to Sikyong Penpa Tsering, expressing their displeasure at his scheduled address on 20 June 2023. Representative Kama Singye said, Australia is a democratic country that strongly upholds its values of democracy and freedom, and the objection from the Chinese embassy is not going to disrupt Sikyong's scheduled event. Sikyong will give a talk on resolving Sino-Tibet conflict and securing peace in the region at the invitation of the National Press Club of Australia. Sikyong Penpa Tsering is scheduled to visit New Zealand and Australia between 14th to 25th June, and he will meet the local Tibetan community, Tibetan youth, Australian and New Zealand legislators, Chinese friends and members of the Tibet support groups. In a 3-day joint diplomatic outreach initiative of Kashak and the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, Central Tibetan Administration, a series of meetings were held in New Delhi with the ambassadors or deputy ambassadors of at least 17 countries, including the US, Czech Republic, Lithuania and Taiwan. The Tibetan delegation consisted of Sikyong Penpa Tsering, Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tempel, Kalo Nonzudoma, DIR Secretary Kama Chuing, and members of the Standing Committee of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile. While briefing the media, Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tempel said the joint advocacy was extremely successful on engaging top diplomats of the world's leading powers and garnering support for the Tibet issue. According to Speaker Sonam Tempel, the ambassador lauded the Tibetan delegates for their joint effort and ensured continued support in the resolution of Sino-Tibet conflict. Chinese and Japanese supporters of democracy in China observed the 34th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre at the Bukokumin Hall in Tokyo on Sunday last week. The Chinese Federation for Democracy organized the anniversary to pay respect to all the victims of the Tiananmen tragedy and to remind the world that the Chinese struggle for democracy is still alive and vibrant. Representative Dr. Tsawang Gebu Arya of the Liaison Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama expressed solidarity on behalf of the Tibetan community. Members and representatives of Uyghur, Southern Mongolia, Hong Kong and Falun Gong communities appealed to the international community to support their movement for freedom and democracy and urged China to stop its repressive policy in the land and occupied regions. On the same day, the Australian and New Zealand Alliance for Victims of Chinese Communist Regime organized a rally in front of the Sydney City Town Hall to commemorate the 34th anniversary of the Tiananmen massacre, where around 100 people gathered at the venue to pay tribute to the 1989 victims. The Chinese liaison officer, Office of Tibet, Canberra, Dawa Sangmo, reflected upon the peaceful protest that erupted in Lhasa in the same year, which also led to the demises of hundreds of Tibetans. Prior to the rally event, Dawa Sangmo also attended the seminar titled From 1989 Pro-Democracy Movement to the Hong Kong Water Revolution and the Blank Paper Revolution, organized by the Australian and New Zealand Alliance for Victims of Chinese Communist Regime. In New York, a memorial exhibition dedicated to China's 1989 suppression of pro-democracy demonstrations around Tiananmen Square was opened on 2nd June, a day ahead of the 34th anniversary of the clampdown. Chuldim Gyatso, Chinese liaison officer of the Office of Tibet in DC, attended the memorial and read out the message of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, extending them good wishes in imparting values of dynamic, free and just society. Chuldim Gyatso, the Chinese liaison officer at Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C., highlighted the sinicization policies implemented by the Communist Party of China in Tibet at an event commemorating the Tiananmen massacre at Liberty Sculpture Park. Many renowned Chinese democracy activists, including representatives from various freedom movements and local officials, attended the ceremony. The Senate of Czech Republic adopted a resolution expressing its deep concern over forced assimilation of Tibetan children and relentless interference with religious freedom in Tibet by China. The resolution was adopted by Senate Committee on Education, Science, Culture, Human Rights and Petitions on 30th May. Representative Chukki of the Tibet Bureau, Geneva, thanked the committee, in particular Vice Chairman of the committee and Chairman of Czech Senate Parliamentary Group for Tibet, Honorable Primsil Rebas, for tabling the resolution which was discussed during her last meeting with the senator. The Tibetan Dome Association in Belgium organized a celebration of the 88th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama as per the Tibetan lunar calendar on 3rd June. The event was presided by special guest Chonang Gyaltsab Ngawang Chugin Nangwa and the chief guest Representative Genkhang of the Office of Tibet, Brussels. Other distinguished guests present at the event include former parliamentarians Chaptak Lamukyap and Togakyap, Tibetan Association-led Belgium-based associations. Representative Chukki of the Tibet Bureau, Geneva, delivered a written message from His Holiness the Dalai Lama on the Peace Stupa inauguration in Grafenwold, Austria on Sunday last week. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's message offered prayers and urged the visitors of the stupa to think of how they can contribute towards a more peaceful world. The Peace Stupa was built under the efforts and dedication of Bob John Sunim, Tenzin Tharchin and Elizabeth Lindmeyer, with consistent support by President of Australian Municipalities, Mayor Alfred Riddle-Minnie, representative of Provincial Governor Christian Hofmeister and other guests. Observing the Buddhist holy month of Sagadawa Full Moon Day, the Tibetan Buddhist religious ceremony, including the consecration of the stupa led by Tikung Kyabgyön Chezang Rinpoche, accompanied by monks from Tikung Monastery. A 40-day Tibetan medical and astrology tour in Brazil was held for individuals interested in Tibetan medicine and astrology to learn from the experts in the field. The tour was organized by Tibetan Medical and Astro Institute based in Dharamshala, India, in collaboration with Tibet House, Brazil, and aimed to promote Sowa Rigpa, system of Tibetan medicine and astroscience. The tour covered several cities and locations across Brazil, including Cabreira, Rio de Janeiro, Vitória, and Sao Paulo. That is all the news for this week's edition of Tibet This Week. Thank you for watching Tibettv.